Why do some tracks sound larger than life, while others are a weak, feeble mess? Today, we'll explore how the 3 levels of layering can ensure your music falls into the former category. Each level builds on the last, with the 3rd level being the most underutilized. Let's start with the time domain, which is the first of our 3 levels. This level is the easiest to grasp as it refers to spacing out your sounds across the time domain. Think of it like creating drum patterns. You don't place all the sounds on the same beat, but instead, you space them out to create an interesting groove. The same logic applies when arranging sounds. Rather than having everything playing on top of each other, you can space out the sounds to complement one another. If you're creating mid-tempo music, the bass patterns might be arranged like this. This approach is akin to fitting together puzzle pieces, where each sound plays for just a second or two, but collectively forms a groove. Where this approach is less obvious, but perhaps more useful, is when working with pads and other melodic elements. In this remake of Super Shy by New Jeans, what do you notice about the interplay between the bowels and the pads? Pads play long, continuous notes, while the bowels are short and infrequent. This contrast not only gives each element its own space in the mix, but also creates musical excitement that keeps listeners engaged. These 2 elements also take advantage of the 2nd level of layering, the frequency domain. If I play these elements again with a frequency analyzer open, take note of what you observe. The pads are operating in the 800 Hz region and below, while the bowels sit around 1 kHz and above. Even though the 2 sounds play on top of each other, they work as distinct layers because they are separated enough in their frequency content. The rule to follow is this: sounds can occupy the same time domain if they occupy different frequency domains. The 3rd level is the most important domain, yet it's often the most underutilized. The spatial domain covers both the left and right, as well as the front to back areas of your mix. Technically, there's also an up and down domain, but that's beyond the scope of this video since achieving it requires specialized binaural plugins. Panning and other stereo effects control the left and right domain. Volume, frequency, and delay-based effects like reverb control the front to back domain. There's some crossover between them, meaning that altering one can affect the other. For example, applying stereo effects to spread a sound out often makes it seem further away. Let's explore how to push elements back in a mix or bring them forward using frequency and effects. This pad is sitting right at the back of the mix. To replicate this effect, roll off the lows and the highs, leaving only the middle band of frequencies, and apply a large dose of reverb to create a blurry, distant sound. You can also use stereo imaging to evenly pan the sounds across the left and right spatial domains. Here's an A/B comparison of the pad when it's front and center versus when it's pushed to the back of the mix. So we've covered the role of frequency, effects, and panning to change a sound's position in the mix. But what about volume? This is the easiest element to play with, as louder sounds naturally feel closer, while quieter sounds seem further away. However, there's a critical element often overlooked: the Fletcher-Mson curve. The Fletcher-Mson curve illustrates how the human ear perceives loudness across different frequencies and volume levels. It helps explain why some sounds need to be louder or softer for us to hear them as equally loud. To make all pitches sound equally loud, sounds at very low or very high frequencies might need to be adjusted compared to mid-range sounds. The curve shows this relationship, helping audio engineers balance sound in music and speech so everything is heard clearly. A familiar example is the extra low end you hear when cranking up your monitors or headphones. The additional bass isn't actually present, rather our ears become more sensitive to low frequencies as the volume increases. We're most sensitive to frequencies around 1 to 4 kHz, meaning these frequencies will naturally stand out to us even at lower levels compared to sounds in other frequency bands. Bass frequencies, on the other hand, need to be turned up in a mix to be heard at a balanced level alongside the other elements. That's why when analysing EDM tracks, the bass often appears as the loudest instrument in the mix, yet the track still sounds balanced. If you're interested in exploring this topic further, you might enjoy this video where I explore how to use the 3 different levels of reverb in a mix. I hope you find it valuable. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.